Hello, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Sunrise Daily. Today, I am Chamberlain. So, how many days to Christmas now?
Oh dear. Is the counter here for us this morning?
Is the official countdown timer.
Bukola was threatening to take over from him. But
okay.
Good morning. Good morning. Bukola is the one who's been counting down to Christmas.
I see.
We'll ask her how many more days, it is that we have left. Well, I can smell it in the air here in Abuja. Good morning. I'm Maokwe Ogun-Yusuf. Welcome to the program.
It just so happens that I'm alone today with you, so you're stuck with me. And yes, today is the 15th day in the month of December 2022. And guess what? That's exactly 10 days to Christmas Day. I mean, you can just do the math yourself. Chamberlain, you look like someone who's been touching some new Naira notes recently.
Christmas mood? Well, I can't argue with that.
You're wearing a red tie at least.
I'm sitting on...
the red chair.
Okay. That's allowed. But who knows? Will it be a red letter day today then? Because you never know. It's the 15th and it's when the CBN did say the new currency will be in circulation. So we wonder because, I mean, remember the National Assembly did weigh in on the matter, saying that, well, they needed to suspend the implementation of that cashless policy of the CBN. According to them, they were citing concerns from the populace. But shortly before that time, we also do remember that the CBN governor did say, well, look, we're not going to be rigid about implementation of some of these policies, but some of them are here to stay. So that of the circulation, I know that quite a number of people did. I'm not sure if it's still in circulation or if it will be today or by midnight today. So since they said 15th, it's supposed to be today. So if I get to the ATM, which many of you may try today, oh, there you go. So if we get there, what are we going to find? Because as at yesterday, it was still the old notes. I'm reaching to my pocket now to see if we can get that one. So this is what came through yesterday, and sometimes I think up to early hours of this morning as well. That's what is there. So could it be because remember the CBN has said that they were going to upload 200 Naira denomination of the new notes in the ATMs. So if the National Assembly is still debating that matter, so could it be that they say, okay, well, you know what,
another one,
let's see what happens. So who knows, but at the moment that is what you get to see with I know you're looking forward to that, aren't you? The new currency notes for Christmas. Maybe they'll get it before that time. You never know.
Oh, well, I guess if you go to the banks, if you walk into a bank, you should be able to get some of the notes. Do not forget that the old notes and the new notes will be in circulation, together for a while until the 31st of January. And then you will now have just the new notes. There'll be no excuse any further. So let us see what eventually happens. If you've been able to get, excuse me, a hold of the new notes, do let us know. Take a picture of it. Whatever it is you want to call it, the redesigned notes, the redyed notes, the restructured notes. If you have been able to get your hand on it, just let us know. And how easy it was for you to be able to get it. Well, after we've dealt with, I don't know how you received it. I mean, after I've dealt with the disappointment of what I don't know, I had an expectation in my head. After that was dashed with how the notes came out, I'm still looking forward to seeing the new ones. I mean, let's see how much more different it will be. I spoke with a friend and the person said, oh, it doesn't look that bad actually. It's when the cameras don't seem to do it justice. That when you see a lot of it together, it makes a lot of sense. I'm like, okay.
Oh, together.
Okay.
I like that togetherness. The cooperation of those new currency notes makes a lot of sense.
Yes, indeed. So I look forward to having a lot of it together, especially in this Christmas season. So if you've been able to get a hold of it so far, let us know. Take a picture, send it to us via your Twitter handle. Let us know how easy it was. Did you just go to an ATM and get a hold of it? Or did you have to go into the bank? Did you have to request? Or were the banks themselves gracious enough to say, oh, no, we're no longer doing old notes here. We're giving you new notes. I want to believe that whatever it is, the logistics system of the CBN and the banks will be in to ensure that these notes are distributed as quickly as possible. People still want to get a feel of it, and I'm glad that a lot of the cashless policy, which the CBN also brought into, brought into motion, will not kick off until after Christmas. So all the worry I was having about, oh my God, how are we going to do? Usually we spend money. It's usually a dirty December. How are we going to dirty this December? You know, the worries were invalid. They had been taken care of by the date when this cashless policy of the CBN is supposed to kick in. I think it's supposed to kick in on the 9th of January. So we have a lot of time to ensure that the cash circulates properly and people get to see it, you know, hold it, feel it, and then you can put it back into the bank and let us do this thing wirelessly, okay?
Well, I mean, you guys, you've taken it all away, and I think it's actually, you know, quite fantastic. Well, to speak to some of the issues you raised, Mark, where, I mean, I think I remember the CBN governor saying, well, the new notes have been distributed all over the nation quite a while back, and some of the banks have confirmed that they received the notes about 2 days ago, and that people will begin to have access to them today. The pictures you saw earlier this morning, I'm pretty sure you're still going to see them again. Yes, these pictures, they were taken this morning. One of us, you know, went around this morning. My producer actually went around this morning, got to 5 different ATMs, and guess what? They were all dispensing these new notes. Perhaps the question then is, what time did the CBN give to say, okay, this is the time of day it'll be? I guess we'll wait to see. Perhaps, you know, it goes to what ZU Chamberlain that mentioned, that maybe when you go into the banking halls, you'll be able to get this cash. I mean, that's perhaps what is expected. But then you have to bear in mind, I mean, it is really exciting, guys, when new notes are coming in. You forgive me, but my parents were some of those people who welcomed the highest denomination at the time, the 20 naira notes. When it first came out, it was with a lot of euphoria, a lot of excitement all over the nation and all over the continent of Africa, that the 20 naira note, the highest denomination at the time, was coming out. Well, guess what? That's history now. Same excitement when the higher denominations began to come, the 50 naira notes, the 100 naira note, the 500 naira note, and the 1,000 naira notes at the time. Things are suddenly different now. But then you have to pay attention to the colors. The colors of the notes now, some of them are for were for lower denominations. So you may have to be careful so you don't mistake the old for the new or the new for the old, as the case may be. Because there are those who are pointing to the fact that the colors of the new 1,000 naira notes were that of the old 50 naira notes. So I want to pay someone 50 naira, you give 1,000 naira. I really don't know how it's going to be a really, I don't know, is that going to be a dirty December or what, Markwe?
Well, look, it depends on how you see it, because if one makes a mistake and gives you the old higher denomination as opposed to the other one, and you refuse to give him back, it might be a dirty December, because they may give you a dirty slap if you refuse. If you refuse to return the person's money, this crucial time, this injury time of the economy that we have here. So please cooperate with people. If they make mistake, return their money. Don't start arguing.
I saw a video yesterday on Instagram, and somebody was saying, oh, look, somebody just tried to cheat me. I don't know what the person did to the 1,000 naira, and maybe the person bleached it, or it wasn't the right, it just was a fake currency. And the person was trying to pass it off as a new note.
Oh, my goodness.
Now, I mean, I'm not able to independently verify how true that is. It's also possible that somebody was cooking up that sort of story. I don't know. But, I mean, the person was obviously trying to show that he or she runs a shop, and that, you know, somebody just tried to come and, you know, cheat him or her by giving a fake 1,000 naira note. But thankfully for the person already has a new 1,000 naira note and knows what it looks like. So he or she brought out that particular money and showed the would-be fraudulent customer that, look, I have seen the new 1,000. This is what it looks like. I don't know where your one is from. So by all means, if you're going to get to the bank, if you're a customer, maybe not a customer, if you are a businessman or woman, by all means, get original copies from the bank, from your banker. So in case anybody tries to bring anything that doesn't look right to you, you can tell them that, look, I have seen the new thing, and this is, and I think I was saying something to the effect that, you know, those were not new notes, Ayo. I mean, our producer only got those old notes. I'm sure our viewers could say those old notes from 2 of the ATMs. She said she went to 5, 3 weren't dispensing, 2 were, but they were dispensing old notes, and that's what she was able to get. So
yeah. So we'll come back to you with a look at some of the dailies, but we'll try and see if, remember, the CBN met with the president in Daura, and he was speaking about what they may be able to allow happen with this policy of theirs. So after which, we'll take a look at the dailies in a moment.
Only yesterday, the new currency has now reached the banks, and that we expect that the banks will begin to distribute those currencies to the members of the public who are their customers, and primarily to assure the president that things are going on well about the currency, as well as issues bordering on the cashless policy. The Senate of the Federal Republic's National Assembly, the legislative arm of the government, and from time to time, we brief them about what is happening, about our policies, and I'm aware that they have asked for some briefings, and we will brief them. But I think it's important for me to say that the cashless policy started in 2012, okay? But at almost 3 to 4 occasions, we've had to step down the policy because we felt that there is a need for us to prepare ourselves and deepen our payment system infrastructure in Nigeria. Between 2012 and now 2022, almost or about 10 years, we believe that a lot of electronic channels have been put in place that would aid people in making banking, conducting banking and financial services transactions in Nigeria. We will be reviewing from time to time how this is working, because I cannot say that we are going to be rigid, but it is not to say that we will reverse. It is not to say that we will change timing, but whether it is about tweaking some amount to be a little bit higher or a little bit lower and all the rest of them, we will do so because we are humans. We want to make sure that we make life good for our people. We do not want to make life difficult for them. So there's no need for anybody to worry. The central bank is monitoring what is happening, and I can assure everyone that we are we are alive to our responsibilities, and we will do what is right for Nigeria and Nigerians.
All right, so thereafter came several debates on the floor of both the Senate and the House of Reps in the National Assembly. Take a look at New Telegraph. Cashless policy they lead with this morning. Adjust withdrawal limits upward. Senate urges CBN. You already heard the CBN saying we will not be rigid about some of these things. We could tweak it because we are human and we want to MLG, make life good for Nigerians. So perhaps in the spirit of that, he might take on this recommendation, which is the first of the riders here with this lead story. Senator Carlo proposes 500,000 naira for individuals, 3 million naira for corporate bodies daily. Not bad. Okay, so Red Chamber confirms Aishat Edward for second term as CBN deputy governors. So there you go. Not a bad one. So since they said they will tweak it, might be welcome. FG to review whistleblower policy in line with Evidence Act. You also see at the bottom strip the Reps passed bill to restrict foreign vessels from Nigerian coastal waters. Hails DSS. Say crime rate has reduced ahead of 2023 polls as agency promises to use appropriated funds judiciously. So you need to put that in context and see what exactly that is talking about. But above this lead story here today, consumer protection, FG beams searchlight on generator merchants. About time, isn't it? It's been a long time coming. They should have beamed this searchlight with very heavily powered batteries for this searchlight, because they need a lot of light, I tell you. They need a lot of light, you know.
Oh, look at all of the innuendos in that particular story. They beam a lot of light on the generator vendors.
They put up their gen and no more light.
But the generator vendors are trying to provide light. Isn't that what they're trying to do?
Oh dear.
Oh dear.
That's what they're trying, but we'll see.
Anyway, let's take a look at what leadership has for you on the front page this morning. And it's also focusing on the cash withdrawal limits. 25 days to January takeoff. Senate wants policy reviewed. Okay, Senate, take it easy. I mean, it has not even started. You want it reviewed. Circulation of new Naira notes kicks off today. So, by all means, do seize the opportunity to see if you get it at your ATM or at the bank. And if you have it already, again, do let us know. Just send us a tweet at Sunrise Daily Now. Look at this, Leadership Awards. Okay, they have their own awards, which you're doing right there. But take a look at this particular story. Quite a disappointment. Federal government admits whistleblower policy has failed. Yes, it's a page 7 read for you. Remember that policy where you could anonymously tell, whisper to the government that somebody has money somewhere, and then you can get a percentage of that money if it comes out to be true. Well,
what part of it failed? They didn't give people the percentage?
Well,
or they disclosed who blew the whistle?
I don't know. You know, we could ask further questions, details somewhere on page 7 of the paper. But today, I think we have official confirmation that the federal government admits that that policy did not work. But they have to ask critical questions.
Yeah.
How did it fail? What made it fail? Is it in the implementation? Is it in the fact that, or is it in the, we heard that quite a number of the people who were tipping up people were, they were picked up, or their names were announced, exactly, they were exposed. And then in some instances, they refused to give them their percentages. Well,
they can't sue you, know. If you say it's a whistleblower policy, and I blow the whistle, and somebody comes to me, then I'm going to sue you.
Okay. Well, page 7 will give you details on why the policy has failed. Niger Delta Ministry executed 553 projects in 7 years. That's according to Umana. And some updates from the World Cup. France ends Morocco's fairy tale run to set up final against Argentina. Oh dear.
All the same, it was a standing ovation for Morocco.
For Morocco.
It was lovely. So, way to go, way to go.
They bowed out with dignity.
Oh, yeah.
And pride.
A lot of it.
Okay, so, I mean, it's a game, you know. Somebody must lose and somebody must win. So, Morocco lost and France, the defending champions, went on with it. So, page 31 will give you details. They also have those who are still campaigning just on top of the nameplate there. Every child will have access to education under my presidency. That's from Atiku. APC united to win 2023 elections, Tinubu declares. So you have all of that if you're following the campaigns and what each party is saying or what each candidate is saying. They have details for you somewhere inside the paper. Let's leave it there for leadership newspapers.
Well, this Nigeria is certainly interested in new money as well. New Naira notes. Senators kick as Red Chamber okays cash withdrawal limits. Well, is that to say that there is no concurrence on that matter? Well, page 4 will give you details. Confirm CBN's deputy governor's appointment for second term. So, which is it going to be? Well, I guess you can find out the details on the inside pages. Right under the picture on the front page, Tinubu's exit from Mina APC rally sparks reactions. Brief speech was to allow him attend to other events. Ononuga PCC member, that's the writer of the story. You'll find the details on the inside pages of this Nigeria newspaper today. That's it for the paper.
80 billion naira USSD debts weaken digital channels as new naira notes arrive. So since they've gone to the ATMs and they haven't seen any of those notes, if it doesn't come up today, are they going to add another day to the deadline? Because it takes away one day, doesn't it? But look at the writers here. Visit your bank today for redesigned bills. Oh, okay. It's a bank, not the what? ATM.
Not the ATM. So yes, bank by all means.
Well, what's the point? Why don't they have it everywhere?
Some ATMs, well, it might take a while, Chamberlain. Maybe they'll start loading the ATMs today.
Had a while. They had all day, several days to load it up with the ATMs. You know, this is part of the reason. After all, they said that.
Calming down.
No, they were the ones who announced the policy. I thought that they would have done all their homework before coming up with all of this.
In a few days, the ATM certainly will have it, maybe from today, but in the meantime, if you really want the money, the place to visit will be your bank.
But they should lead by example. You say it's cashless, make it available everywhere to make it easy for people to access. Show us what we should be thinking about, you know? But look at this. It says Fashua, Nigeria should join global trend. Okay. Pay attention to real challenges. Let e-payment evolve naturally, says Yusuf. ALMPO to engage CBN on negative impacts of policy on agents. So, you know, those POS operators, mobile money operators, they are up in arms about this one. Low smartphone penetration may hinder service. And then you see CHRICED urges revocation of, quote, draconian policy. There you go. So that is The Guardian today.
Well, Daily Trust is the paper I'm looking at for you, and they're covering the meeting.
There's a little notice here, I missed it though. It says NCC raises the alarm as malware attacks over 300,000 devices. So you need to be careful. Don't go about opening up whatever might be sent to your phone. You know, those of you that circulate all sorts on WhatsApp, you have to be careful because 300,000 devices
is a lot.
This is a
lot.
A lot. And it could be more than this, you never know really. So be careful out there really.
Yeah, but NCC has been doing some announcements of late, talking to those who are using Telegram before now, that some people have been targeting that particular app and trying to see how they can, you know, will I say breach the security on it. So,
but not Signal yet though.
No, not Signal. Okay. It was
cool.
Telegram.
That's still cool. We're safe.
What has this man been doing on Signal? Anyway, Daily Trust is the paper I have for you this morning. Stop begging the West for loans. Ghana president tells African leaders. Okay. This is at the U.S. Africa Leaders Summit happening in Washington, D.C. Buhari seeks U.S. support for $1.9 trillion energy plans. Nigeria's foreign debt hits $40.06 billion. Ghana seeks $3 billion from IMF. Will that be the same thing? West, yeah. I don't know.
It's confusing. That headline and then the writers.
And then the writer. Because we know that the Ghanaian economy has been in some trouble. Well, hey, if you're in trouble, you're in trouble. If you need money, you need money. African leaders borrow to fund wasteful ventures. That's according to analysts. It's a page 4 read for you. And look at this. They also are following up with that cash withdrawal limit. Senate orders CBN to increase cash withdrawal limits. New Naira notes go into circulation today. Can they order? I know that the CBN is an independent body, and by the very act, BOFIA, which the CBN operates on, which enables the CBN to operate, what effect will such an order be? It'll be worth exploring. Let us see what eventually happens. But I mean, I don't think the CBN governor wants to make enemies. What he just wants to do
is make life good for Nigerians. Exactly. According to him.
Make life good. Oh well, sloganeering, that's just in case. The CBN governor, you might need to pay for that particular slogan, MLG. Chamberlain has imprinted it for you. Millions of northerners selling PVCs for less than 2,000 Naira. That's according to the Northern Elders Forum. This is something very serious. Yes, it's a serious thing, but we need to keep asking, what is the motive? What is the end game when people buy PVCs and when politicians are buying PVCs? What is the end game? They must know something we don't, or there must be something that they're saying that INEC isn't. But INEC says if you're buying PVCs, you're wasting your time.
Yeah.
But it looks like they're not listening. They're still buying these PVCs anyway. So is it that they enjoy wasting their time, or they just want to deprive voters, perhaps in the stronghold of their opponents, from voting? Is it a possibility? Is that what they're doing, mopping up the cards, knowing that you cannot vote without your PVC?
Yep.
So what exactly is the end game? Well, people need to be vigilant. People need to know that their vote is their power, and it's far worth much more than 2,000 naira. This is worrisome. Page 12 is where you find details, just in case you're worrying like I am over that particular story. And look at this. It's a story which we will be following for you today. Motorists express relief as Buhari opens second Niger Bridge. It's a page 5 read for you. Finally, after many, many, many years, at least that one is no longer in the campaign promises of any of the party. We'll build second Niger Bridge. It's finally over. Okay? Number of other stories at the corner there. Custom rakes in 7 billion naira at Lagos Airport. Is it in one day? Is it in 1 month? You might want to see details on page 23 of the paper. Let's leave it there for Daily Trust.
Well, the Nigerian Tribune is also interested in that PVC story, Mark Webb, and that's the lead of the paper. In fact, it's very, very specific. Thousands of northerners selling their PVCs for about 2,000 naira. Of course, that's the same thing you mentioned earlier. Real reasons politicians are buying PVCs. Party leaders speak. Certainly, we'll answer some of those questions, hopefully, that you were asking, Mark. The story, you'll find details on page 3 of the Nigerian Tribune this morning. What the value is of the PVC, perhaps we need to engage some orientation agency. It seems that, National Orientation Agency hasn't been as noisome, if I can use the word, as would have been expected over time. Still on the front page, you have that story as well on the opening of the second Niger Bridge today. Buhari orders opening of second Niger Bridge today. Find the story on the inside pages. And still talking about roads, East-West Road delay by poor budgetary allocation. That's ascribed to Minister. Find out the details of that on page 25 of the paper this morning. Police, DSS, Army increase presence at INEC offices nationwide. About time, wouldn't you say? Find the details of that on the inside pages. And still talking roads. Fourth mainland bridge. Lagos allays fares of landowners on compensation. That story has its details on the inside pages. This last one, Nigeria lost 16.25 trillion naira to crude oil theft in 11 years. That's ascribed to NATI. If we do a bit of a calculation, you'll find out that 16.25 trillion naira in 11 years, that's over 1 trillion naira each year. My math's not so good, but hey, it's good enough for this one. That's the Nigerian Tribune for you.
Or onto Daily Independent next, and they lead with something different from several others. FG to tighten tax admin to augment revenues, create jobs. They lead with here today. OK's 9.24 billion naira for life insurance for public servants. Laments whistleblowers policy has lost momentum. So you heard that previously. And then they equally have that bit about NATI. NATI backs panel on oil theft. And says Nigeria lost what? Look at that. 12.25 trillion naira in 12 years. Okay. There is a committee now, is a panel to look into all of this. They've got their terms of reference. So we'll wait and see what becomes of that. Isn't it going to be business as usual? So why is it that all the other agencies of government have not been able to stop all of this in spite of them being creation of the laws? So will this panel will it be any different from what you have previously? Okay, and don't forget when they're going to come up with this stuff. Almost day of election, few days to election day. There you go, that is Daily Independent today. Well,
Well, News Direct, that's the Nigerian News Direct, has this. Oil theft investigation panel, NATI, backs federal government, laments loss of 16.25 trillion naira in 12 years, says Nigerians colluding with foreign nationals to steal, sabotage oil resources. Page 3 is where you find details. Look at this also. NSIA to open additional centers in 24 states in 3 years. According to the chairman, Adeleke suspends licenses of mining firms operating in Osun. That is also there. 50 million naira bribery. Court dismisses no case submission. Orders Chinese nationals to open defense. So just in case you're wondering what that story is about, is somewhere inside the Nigerian News Direct for you. Malware increases threats to bank customers' security. That's the one we don't want to hear. Especially,
Better sort themselves out.
Exactly. That's what we don't want to hear at all. But let me finish reading the headline. It says, malware increases threats to bank customers' security, impacts 13.33% organizations in November. It's according to a report. So get a hold of the report. Don't jump to conclusions with the headline. The idea is not to discourage you from electronic banking. It's just to say that the threats are real and that perhaps when the hunter learns to shoot without missing, the bird needs to learn to fly without perching. That's where we'll leave it for Nigerian News Direct this morning.
Yes, indeed, and the end to look at some of the dailies here today. But we will be back in just a moment and start off with this question of permanent voter cards collection. So, what is your story? Tell us about it when we return in a moment. That will be. Stay with us. All right, welcome back. So wherever you are, if you are a registered voter, yeah, you should be listening to this. And you can even ask or send your concerns to us. We hope to get some answers. But this time we've got Mr. Oboefan, the resident electoral commissioner for INEC in Edo State. He joins us from our studios in Benin. Good morning, and thank you for joining us on the program today. Well,
good morning, Chamberlain.
The collection has, good morning, it has begun. There are several stories, but we did hear from some of our persons who are on the ground in Benin concerning slow collection rate by some of the residents who wanted certain things to happen. But first of all, let us get your impression of how this PVC distribution and collection by the people is panning out in Edo State.
Yeah, thank you very much. Let me start by saying that the PVC collections have been ongoing long before now. The emphasis now is on the last batch of the PVCs that we announced that the collection will start on the 12th of December. That is this week, Monday. So all the people who have registered at different times can pick the PVCs. And in Edo State, that has been ongoing. I have the figures of the daily collection figures from across the local government areas, and also myself and my management staff have been going around to also observe what's going on in each of the collection centers. Remember that the collection at this point is at the INEC office in the local government areas. And the figures, so for instance, for yesterday, I'm just looking at the figures that came in from across the local government areas. I can see from 14 out of the 18 local government areas that I immediately see the figures. That more than 2,200 permanent voters' cards were collected across the state for just yesterday.
Okay, so we'll look at some of those other figures as we progress, because I know that in June, you had announced that you had a huge number of uncollected PVCs and people needed to come forward. But we were able to just take a look at narratives from different persons who were supposed to pick it up, who went to your offices, and some of the places we touched. And here, some persons who were supposed to pick up their cards, they got to INEC offices and they said they were in Oredo, Ego, Ikwabaha, local government areas. And then they said that the residents were told that the cards were not available and that they needed to come back in January 2023. Could that be the case?
Okay, there are few instances where the cards were not available and they were told that they will need to take back. But I don't know where they got the January 2022 date from. There's still a few more cards we're expecting this week and next, and so people can take back maybe in the next 2 weeks. But some of the people who said they didn't get their cards, or they told them they didn't have the cards, they didn't give the full details of what happened. So on Monday, for instance, I went to one of the local government areas, Ikobalka, and I spent significant time there interacting with the people who came to collect their voters' cards. And in a few instances of people who didn't get their cards to collect, I had to interrogate further. And some of the things that came out was that some of them had actually registered more than once. So the last registration they did, they came to collect the cards and they couldn't collect the cards because those registrations were cancelled. Remember that even INEC had before now issued information showing that those who attempted to do multiple registration, subsequent registrations were cancelled. So some of these persons who said they didn't collect the cards actually fall under that, and they won't tell you the truth that that is what happened. There are also some of them that, so I've talked about the ones that legitimately didn't collect the cards because the cards were not there. And for as many of such instances, we took note and reported to headquarters to find out what might have happened, that the cards were not printed, or the cards are not here yet.
So this means that, pardon me to jump in, so no matter what happens, or under no circumstances should any INEC official tell residents to come back and pick up their cards in January 2023. Is that right?
They may not tell them to come back. They will tell them that the card is not there if legitimately they are on the voters register and the cards are not found there. So the INEC officials will take that information and report back to headquarters for that card to be found. Maybe it's been mixed up somewhere, it's not been printed yet, and then that would be done. And because this process will continue every day, including weekends, up till January 22nd. So at some point, they will need to check back. But I'm not, you don't need to tell someone in certainty that it has to be in January. The cards could still be available this same month.
Okay, because when they did tell them January, and you say it will be up until January 22nd.
22nd.
So,
yes.
but there isn't any specific window for someone who, because the cases differ, who doesn't have his card. Because if, as some are reporting, we're asked to come back in January, and you are saying that they shouldn't tell them to come back in January. But it does appear as though, well, even if they tell them to come back in January, the officials in INEC, they may not exactly be wrong. Because you say, well, they may either come back in a week or two, just check back. It's indefinite check back up until January. That's the window, isn't it?
Well, if when we receive any further tranche of cards that have not been received now, we let people know. So it could be this week, it could be next week. So we'll let people know. But I just wanted to correct that it don't need to tell people specifically in January. Because if I were in the people's position, it will sound like, because January is next year, that's how it will sound to me, that you ask me to come back next year. And the collection will actually end on the 22nd of January. So we need to be careful how this information is given out there. And well, in any event, let me also say that this isn't a widespread thing. So there would be exceptions, because if you go to any of the collection centers in a day, let's say 100 people turned up, there's the likelihood that at least 90 of them collected their cards. And the other 10 could be that they didn't get their cards because they did multiple registration, majority of them. And then maybe 1, 2, 3, or 5 are those that legitimately should have collected their cards and they are not there. So it's not like a large number of people not being able to collect their cards. That's not true.
I understand what you're saying, but January is still next year, so we'll get the point. But what we're trying to do is to ensure that people, because they have other things to do, so they need to be, if as clear or as certain as can be, so that they don't leave whatever they're doing and then keep coming back within a week or within 2 weeks. So we thought that INEC could be a little more specific as to when it is that people can come back, so they don't go saying what you want to avoid, I was told to come back next year. But that's on the one hand. But for those who may have registered multiple times, we thought that INEC had said anyone who did that, you won't get anything, and then they are notified. What is the process? Is it that if one registered multiple times, or how does that even happen? When they get to the place where they're supposed to register and they present their details, doesn't INEC have a process or platform where they check and see that they've already been registered? One, and then secondly, when INEC finds out that those persons registered multiple times, is there any way of communicating to them so that they don't come crowding out the offices for other people who registered correctly to pick up their cards?
Okay, so during registration, what usually happens for many of the cases of multiple registration is that somebody comes and says he or she wants to register, and we ask to be sure that the person has been registered before. Sometimes looking at the age of the person, you would assume that the person must have registered earlier. And you ask the person, and the person tells you he or she has never registered, and goes ahead to register. And even when you try to check, because people are not consistent with their personal information, they won't use the same date of birth they used when they registered the previous time. They may not even remember the date of birth they used the previous time they registered. So when you key in the date of birth they present to you now, it will not match up with the previous registration. And sometimes also that their name, they're not using the same names or set of names. So at that point, you would truly think that the person hadn't registered. But by the time
but Mr. Fan,
this registration,
I thought they have thumbprints. It's the same, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm trying to explain that. At that point of registration, it's just getting the information in. the thumbprint you do there is not matched instantaneously with the rest of it that we have in the system. Remember that going into this continuous voter registration that we just ended, we already had 84 million registered voters in the country. So if we were going to use the technology that at the point of registration that will pop up, then it would mean that it would take a longer time to register each person. And people would also complain about that. So what we did was tell people, we expected people to also be honest about this, that if they have registered before, they will tell us they have registered before, and whatever they needed maybe to update or to transfer, or they lost their cards, they needed a replacement, we attended to those persons speedily. But there were people who deliberately attempted to register more than once. And so at that point, we take the information in. Then at the back end, when we now did the screening to match the fingerprints and the facials, that is when we discovered these persons had registered more than once. And we were regularly sharing that information with Nigerians that we have found out a number of people who are, the first time we shared that information, about 44% of all the people who registered were doing multiple registration. We issued that information, I think, sometime in April. And so subsequently, we expected people to know that the technology was such that we can identify. But unfortunately, some people still went ahead to register more than once. And like we said, the subsequent registrations would be cancelled. It is deemed that the old registration is still valid and you can still vote with that.
I have a number of issues I'd like to take you up on. Let's start with the first one. The dailies today are washed with stories of an alarm raised by the Northern Elders Forum saying that some people are beginning to sell their PVCs, or that politicians are buying PVCs for 2,000 naira. Are you also, doing this distribution with a warning or with, will I say, a warning of some sort, or an awareness of sorts that, people could attempt to buy PVCs for whatever reason from the people, and that they shouldn't sell their votes?
Well, yes, we do that not only at the point of people picking up their cards, but at all times we mentioned that people should avoid, should keep their voters' cards and use it to vote. I mean, even if somebody takes another person's voter's card, the person is not able to vote with the other person's identity, because your fingerprints must match with what you have in the system, and your facials should also match for you to get verified and accredited to vote on election day. So I think that many people still don't accept the fact that the music has changed and they need to have a new dance step. People still think that, well, in the past, this is how we used to do. Just like the issue of multiple registration. When we told people earlier that they shouldn't register more than once, that if they do, we will find them out and we'll cancel it. People thought that wasn't possible, that in the past we had said that and it didn't work. But they didn't realize that we had a newer technology. And by the time the figures started coming out, people had to caution themselves. Unfortunately, some people, it was late for them to now request a reprint or a reproduction of the previous voter registration information they had, that they could use that to vote. So they attempted to do multiple registration. That has been cancelled. They don't have the previous cards, so on election day, they will not vote. When I went out this Monday, I actually met a young man in one of the collecting centers who had that problem. And I explained to him that unfortunately, he can't vote with the new, the attempt he made to register afresh. And I asked about the older registration. He admitted he registered before. He said, oh, it was in another state and he didn't have the card. And I said, unfortunately, you can't vote in 2023. So it's not possible for people, I don't know what is driving that, for people to sell their cards to others, or for people to mop up cards belonging to others from them. Nobody can vote in the stead of another in this coming election. And we've seen this happen in the few recent elections we've had, the off-cycle elections, that it was not possible for people to vote for others.
So, nonetheless, we're seeing a lot of enthusiasm by the people who are going to go and collect their cards. I imagine that when some people find out that they are not able to get the cards for whatever reason, maybe double registration, or maybe their cards are not yet available, do you have a mechanism in place to manage expectations and manage emotions? Because I also imagine that you do not want to have any crisis on your hands, especially, or anything that would endanger the lives of your collection officers. What are you putting in place to manage the enthusiasm and the energy that will be around those who are coming to collect their PVCs?
Yes, I appreciate that. So what we have at each of the collection centers, we have a desk officer who takes those situations where there are legitimate instances where people their cards were not available or some problem. So, and we also have dedicated lines where people can call in to make complaints about this. In each of the local government areas and at the state offices, we have help desk for that. But also at that point, at the point of collection, we also have our officers who try to explain to these persons what has happened. Like I said, when I went around on Monday, I actually met a few of the persons who weren't satisfied with how they were attended to because of the number of persons each person had to attend to. And in explaining to some of them, they actually understood why they face what they face. I met a man who came with two of his children, twins, and one of them got his card. The girl didn't have her card. It wasn't ready. Maybe there was a problem with the registration. And the man also inquired about the wife's card, and we tried to find out. Sometimes also that they don't give the right information. So, for instance, the information he had on the wife, he couldn't be sure of the polling unit where the woman registered because he just wanted to know if the card was ready. He couldn't be sure of the polling unit, even the details of the wife. He didn't have them in full, like the spelling of the name. I think it was the name Kate. So he didn't know whether it was Kate she registered with or Catherine or Katrina, and even the date of birth and the polling unit. So these are some of the things that make it a bit difficult to attend to all the people immediately. But if people come with the slips, it's easier to attend to them. Or if they attend online to have a screenshot of their current registration, it's easy to attend to them. But we try as much as possible.
Yeah, I'll be very honest with you. I checked my slip and it's all faded. I mean, it's just a white sheet of paper now with nothing on it.
No.
Thankfully,
no. Of course, if you came and your slip is faded, if you give us your exact name and date of birth, we can check online and see. And you can even do it yourself and have it on your phone. You know, your registration status and have it on your phone. And when you come there, you just show us those details. And it's easier to, because the cards are already arranged polling unit by polling unit, ward by ward. So if you go to a local government office, they'll find out which ward you're registered and then the polling unit. So they just pick up the cards for that polling unit and flip through to bring out your cards. For those people who don't have any complications, in some places, it takes 2 minutes, 5 minutes for them to pick them up.
interesting. I don't know. Well, let me flip this. Let Ayo get his question in. If he doesn't ask this one, then maybe we'll come back to Abuja and ask them. Ayo, please go ahead.
Well, thank you, Mark. You know, a couple of things just bother, because, of course, coming from the questions you and Chamberlain have asked. So let me ask you, Mr. Efanga, just to be clear, I mean, you, in responding to one of the questions, you mentioned that someone will not be able to vote in 2023. So I just want to ask, this process of PVC collection, who are the people that are likely to have their cards or get their cards when they go to the centers where they're supposed to, and who are the people that are not supposed to? We'll come to this section in a bit. Who are the people that can get their cards, and who are the people that cannot?
Okay, anybody who had registered anytime from 2010, 2011 to the end of the registration this year in July 31st can pick his card or her card. If the person's card is not there, then there's that's an exception. And I've tried to explain the circumstances that could happen, one of which is multiple registration.
Okay.
Matter of fact, when I went to the field on Monday, there was a lady who picked up her card, and she actually registered on the 26th of July, which was like 5 days to the end of registration period. And so the person picked up her card. So the only people that would not pick their cards, I can say definitely, are people who did multiple registrations, and so the cards were not produced.
Okay.
There are a few other persons that would be like an exception.
Okay. What are these exceptions? Just to be clear, I'm building up to somewhere.
I had explained earlier that some of the cards may not have been printed yet, and that's an exceptional situation. We're still expecting a few more cards that may not have been printed to come in this week or next. There are a few of such.
Well,
I can't say for persons who registered at this particular time. That's why I explained that somebody who registered 5 days to the end of the registration still collected her card.
Well, that leads me to the next question of the legal provision in the Electoral Act that we saw a little earlier. The Electoral Act is very clear, Section 47, subsection 1 that we saw earlier, which says, a person intending to vote in an election shall present himself with his voter card to a presiding officer for accreditation at the polling unit in the constituency in which his name is registered. That sounds a lot like if you don't have a PVC, you do not vote. Is there a likelihood that those who have legitimate grounds to get their PVCs, is there a likelihood that some of them may not get their cards? And if they do not, what are their chances? What other options are there for them, since the law is very clear?
Well, we are focused on ensuring that everyone will get their cards. Anyone who have registered and ought to have their cards will have their cards. So that's what we are working on. We don't want to envisage a situation where anybody is denied the right to vote because the cards have not been brought. We'll ensure that all the cards are coming. And like I said, those cards that have not come in are very few compared to those that have come in. So we are working to ensure that all the cards come in. So I would like to focus on the fact that a large majority of persons who registered will have their cards and pick them up.
Staying with us, well, Emmanuel Mock has also joined us this morning in this conversation. He is a former national chairman of the National Transformation Party and former national secretary of IPAC. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much, and thank you, viewers.
Yeah, the PVC collection has started.
Yeah.
Are you excited, disappointed, concerned? Which one are you?
I am concerned. I'm concerned because the PVC collection is something that should have been ongoing, but INEC has continued to delay it. INEC first said that everybody who registered before 2019, and January 2022, that they will all collect all their PVCs before October 2022. But what happened was most people went to collect their PVCs, and their PVCs were not there. They kept on telling them to come back, to come back. INEC said those who registered from January 2022 to July 2022 would collect their PVCs in November. From November, Today now is 15th of December. They just started distribution on the 12th yesterday. Now, within even the schedule of the time they've created, INEC has given something like a 14-day, they say it's a holiday period, something. And then they will end PVC distribution on the 22nd of January. If you look at it, that's, say, within a period of 30 days when you remove those periods. Then INEC now says that instead of them to distribute PVCs at polling units, they say they will distribute first at ward offices. Now, there's nothing like a ward office of INEC. INEC has office, only the local government office of INEC and the state office of INEC. The only ward office that anybody knows is their polling units. Now, for something like PVC distribution, and considering the millions of people that are going to be collecting PVC, by INEC's own statistics, about 29 million people, or closer to 30 million people are supposed to collect their PVCs. If you say they are going to go collect it at local government offices, you will find queues and upon queues. So, first, it says ward offices for 2 weeks, then local government offices for 2 weeks. Somebody told me that, for me to go to my local government office, the person stays somewhere around Okokomaiko, that the place is very far. Are you sure if I go there, I will get my PVC? I said, INEC said yes, that your PVC will be there. Please go, and go early. This is in Lagos here. Imagine a place like Bayelsa. Imagine places like Kaduna. I don't see why INEC will not distribute PVCs for these 30 days at the polling unit. Take all the PVCs available, give 2 weeks, and stay at the polling unit in the morning throughout the week. And then they say they distribute PVCs 3 p.m. to 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. For most of the South, that's a period when people are at work. So people will hardly have time, except on Saturday and Sunday where they say they will still distribute. But then Saturday and Sunday, you come to those places and you find that it's jam-packed. If this was something to be done as seriously as it should, I would expect PVC distribution starts 8 a.m. at the polling units and continues till 6 p.m. daily for the whole period, and no period for holiday except for the specific holiday days, which is Christmas Day, Boxing Day, and New Year's Day. This is a very important thing.
Okay, but when you say you are concerned, and some of these issues that you have raised, what are the likely consequences in your opinion?
The most important consequence is most people will not be able to get their PVC. You see, take like me, I gave my staff during the registration period. I gave my staff on an alternating basis. 2 of you go, make sure you get registered. So, in fact, one particular 2, for more than a week, they kept on going. It couldn't get to be their turn. They couldn't go, it couldn't get to be their turn. I kept on saying you must go and make sure you get registered. Collection of PVCs now, you will see the same thing. I know so many people who said, in fact, a particular person said they registered in 2011, has been going to collect PVC, cannot get the PVC. Doesn't know whether it's that they don't want to give them their PVCs. In fact, the person says they don't want to give me my PVC, and not just me. You understand? Okay. So what I believe is the time is not enough. Now, look at again, elections begin on the 25th of February. Why end PVC distribution on the 22nd of January? Why should it not continue at least to the 23rd of February? At least that's how it's been done before now. PVCs are collected till maybe 2 days to the election because it's just to collect your PVC.
Okay. Well, Mr. Efanga is INEC resident electoral commissioner in Edo State. You might have some answers to some of the issues you've raised. Well, add to your reaction, Mr. Efanga, this one from Favor, 24-year-old Uniben undergraduate, who says, we've been here since morning, and that's, of course, somewhere within your vicinity. And they told us the card is not available, but my name is on the system. I haven't checked INEC website by myself, and my name is there, but my card is not available. They asked us to drop our names and phone numbers, that when the card is ready, they will call us. Is this something you've heard of before, and how is it being addressed?
Let me, for the student that said she couldn't pick her card, she said they took her number and they were going to call her back. I hope that is sorted out. Just like when I mentioned earlier about a set of twins that one of them picked her card and the twin brother didn't pick her card. I've just got feedback from my electoral officer in that local government that they found the card eventually and called the gentleman to come and pick the card. And he did that yesterday. So there may be other instances like that, like the Uniben student that mentioned. But for the other guests in your studio there, I would want him to familiarize himself with the current electoral act. Yes, in the past, people were collecting their permanent voters cards up till the week of the election, even a few days of the election, like what we've seen even in the off-cycle elections. But the electoral act now says that we need to, before the election, we need to publish the details of how many voters' cards have actually been collected and how many are uncollected for each polling unit. So for us to be able to do that, it means that at some point, good enough time before the election, we need to stop the collection so that we can have these figures, because this is part of the accountability going into the election. Now, when he also said that most people will not collect the cards, that's not true. When you say most, it means that a high majority of people will not collect their cards. Like I said, those who may not collect their cards would be a few compared to the number of people who would have collected their cards. So let's also in engaging the system and in criticizing the system, try to be careful that we are not giving a wrong narrative. Yes, we admit that some persons have not been able to collect their cards, even though their names are on the voters register, because maybe the card was mixed up or had not been produced, and we are working towards ensuring that all the cards are available for.
Just a quick one, Mr. Efanga. Just a very, very quick one for you, yes, before I come back to Mr. Mock. Of course, you are aware of the stories of PVCs being found in, all kinds of places. Is that in any way connected with the PVCs being collected? Are some people not going to get their cards because of such occurrences of PVCs being found in unexpected places?
Okay, now let me take us back in the days to the days when there used to be high level of fraud in the electoral process, and one of the reasons was that people could use other people's identity to vote. In the days where there was permission for the use of the incident form, wherein if you were not accredited with the use of the smart card reader, you can now fill a form and say that the smart card reader didn't work, but this is the person and you fill. Then in those days, yes, politicians, if they are honest to themselves, they will tell you that they used to buy off voters' cards from the voters. Just like somebody saying that people are still buying voters' cards for 2,000 naira, because they think that you can vote, you can give the card to any other person to vote.
Okay.
But with the introduction of the bimodal voter accreditation device, the politicians have found out that the cards that they had packed up over the years cannot be used again, and so they were able to turn them anywhere.
So essentially, you're saying, Mr. Efanga, essentially you're saying those cards have nothing to do with the elections. But how about the people who are supposed to collect the cards? Will they be able to get those cards?
It's certainly not from the cards that we produce for people to pick up.
Okay.
Some of them may even have been clone cards.
Okay, all right. Well, yes. Mr. Mock, you are a politician, and you heard one of the things that he said is awash on the front pages of the papers, yes, that politicians are buying PVCs from people, yes, stealing PVCs from all kinds of places. Yes. Is there something that the politicians themselves are missing about the integrity or the patriotism with which they are supposed to engage the entire system? Because if politicians are doing this, it would seem like they're precisely trying to frustrate the entire electoral process.
Let me tell you, driver's licenses are issued by government, a government parastatal. You don't find people's driver's license lost all over the place. So also are ATMs issued by banks. INEC represents such an institution. The very fact that stacks of PVCs are found all over the place suggests something that INEC itself is guilty of.
Well, he just said now that those cars that are being...
It's not just leave that. It's not true. It's not true. He's not being truthful. INEC said during this voter registration period and transfer of voter cards and all of that, at some point, because we organize people to help people register, especially transfers, You understand? A lot of people have moved houses. People, because of insecurity, have moved from north to south, and so needed to transfer their voting cards. And we're helping them do that. At some point, some of the people who are helping people do these transfers, young people, because a lot of the people are not educated enough to do for themselves, they came to us and said that it's as if everybody that has a card needs to revalidate his card. Now, what do you mean by revalidation? He said that we should all reapply for new cards. We had a meeting with the REC in Lagos here, the Resident Electoral Commissioner, Mr. Agbaje, on this matter. And he said, no, that the old cards are still valid. That is just people who want to transfer that should transfer, or new registration should register. You heard INEC saying that if you registered before, you should not register again. Good. If he's saying that those cards don't matter, it therefore means that everybody that has an old card will not be able to vote. Let them answer to that question. Because when he's saying here that those cards don't matter, it therefore means that everybody who has an old card that registered 2007, 2011, 2015, I mean, let me leave 2015, maybe 2011, 2009, or 7, might not be able to vote.
Okay, he will respond to that one, but you haven't spoken to what I asked.
On the matter of politicians withholding voter cards, copying the details of voter cards, there must be, you know, the beavers is an electronic, is a computerized IT equipment, and it's based on the software in it. It is possible that these computers know, I mean, these politicians know that there are ways that with those details, you know, the biometrics of everybody is already known by INEC, because at the point of registration, all your biometrics are taken. And so once they have your card details, they can also access your biometrics. What we are suspecting is that there will be a way for them to vote for those whose details they have already. And for INEC to be saying that it doesn't matter, I don't believe so, because nobody will spend the kind of money they are spending buying cards.
How will they be able to use someone's vote?
See, unless we have
the machine is very clear.
Yes.
You have to confirm with your biometrics on site.
That's the story we hear. But if you've looked at the way things have been done in this country, they are never done exactly as the book says.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Okay.
They're never done exactly as the book says.
My colleague would like to come in. Chemelin.
Okay, just winding down, actually. But Mr. Fan, I know you may want to respond to that as well as we wrap up this segment. So could you, in addition to that, also tell us, or those who have transferred, I see several questions, they like to know what your advice is for those who have transferred their registration points. They're supposed to either pick up their cards or vote. What is their status? What will they be expecting? Because some say they've gone to the LGAs where they were asked to come and pick up their cards, nothing.
No, the cards for the transfers are also ready for pickup. You pick up from the LGA where you've transferred to, not where you transferred from. I saw a young man on Monday who came, he said he did a transfer and he's come to collect his card. So when I asked him, he actually transferred from Edo to another state, and he was coming to Edo to pick the card. I said, no, you have to go to the state, the local government where you are transferred to. That's where you pick your card. So anybody who had done a transfer should go to where he or she transferred to pick up the card. If I may respond to the assertion made by the other guest, Mr. Moore, that you've tried to explain to him that the only way you can vote is that you come on site and you are physically accredited with your biometrics. And he said that, you know, things are not always done the same way. Perhaps he's not been following the trend of election in this country in the last 2 years. If you look back at the election in Osun, in Ekiti, in Ondo, in Anambra, were there instances where people voted for others because they had cloned the cards or done anything? It's not possible. This is what we are telling politicians. They need to understand that the music has changed and that they can no longer dance to the old tunes.
Okay, so just one more thing before you go. In order to stop all of this, arson for INEC offices, politicians buying voter cards from maybe their opponent's stronghold to discourage people from going there to vote, or should we keep printing these cards time and again? Do you think it will be a good idea to perhaps make it such that if you've got the name, then you can vote? After all, we don't see anyone wanting to sell those name cards, and so you have A lot more people coming up to register, to have the name. They will hold it. Politicians can't buy your name cards. I like to believe, because anything is possible. Do you think it will be a good idea for us to go that way?
Well, the Electoral Act is clear that for you to vote, you must come with a permanent voter's card. And that's what
it's
the
up
law
to the National
is.
Assembly to change that.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Obo Efang, Resident Electoral Commissioner, INEC, Edo State. Ayo.
Mr. Mock, your final words, so we can close this segment.
Yeah, my final word is this. It's clear that a lot of people are having challenges collecting their cards. On the day of election, if with all of this thing INEC is doing, cards that have been stolen, because cards being missing or stolen or buried underground were carried there by somebody within the INEC distribution chain. Okay, if because of lapses in the distribution chain, people don't get their card, those people who have registered, as it is, their responsibility as citizens is to come out and register. They register, which is the proof by their temporary slips and the fact that they are an INEC database. What is INEC saying that those people should do on election day?
Okay.
Is it that they will not vote?
Well, it's a question, to respond to, but it seems like largely you have absolved the politician and all of this. We'll continue this conversation some other time. Emmanuel Mock is a former national chairman, National Transformation Party, and former national secretary of IPAC. Again, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you for having me.
We'll take a short break now, and we'll be back to take on something else equally hot. Just stay with us.
Nigerians have been subjected to untold hardships caused by the lingering petrol scarcity, affecting economic activities and making the already trying times in the country more difficult. Further note that the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority advanced excuses to justify the first scarcity. Firstly, when the scarcity reared its ugly head at the peak of the rainy season in October this year, the agency said the fuel scarcity in Abuja and other northern states was caused by rainfall, which submerged the greater part of Lokoja, including the highway leading to Abuja, a development that grounded all vehicular movement along that route. Aware that soon after floods and rains receded in Lokoja and the petrol scarcity continued, the president of the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria said the situation has continued to persist because of the supply gap created by the blockade of Lokoja. The IPMAN affirmed that there was enough product in the depot and that the lingering scarcity was only caused by the break in supply of the product. Further aware that when the scarcity continued and all the excuses advanced by the stakeholders watered down, the National Operations Controller of IPMA advanced another reason and argued that the scarcity is because of an unsteady supply of the product. Concerned that intelligence reports on current fuel scarcity gathered by our securities agencies indicated that there is a deliberate plan by some oil marketers to derail the effort of the government in the distribution of fuel in the country by hoarding the petroleum products and thereby creating artificial scarcity all over the country.
All right, welcome back. So we're turning attention now to what you just heard, the petroleum industry. So Honorable Sergius Ogun joins us now. He is a member of the Committee on Petroleum Downstream. It's not an ad hoc committee, I thought it was. So it's the Committee on Petroleum Downstream. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Thank you for having me, Jimmy.
Well, this is an area that lots of people, we've had several headaches about this sector, trying to see what can ever be the solution. It appears to have defied all kinds of solutions. Now the House has given the NNPCL 7 days to ensure that this product is distributed. Could you explain to us what this means?
Well, I think it's doable in 7 days. The challenge really was that there was a shortfall in supply. And why that? The suppliers were not willing to give the refined products because NNPC was owing.
Which are the suppliers now? There are different people in that chain.
Okay, you know the DSDP, direct sales and direct purchase. The direct sales is you give crude oil to the companies that won the bid, and then the direct purchase is they bring refined product equivalent of the crude that they took.
That's component of the crude swap?
Yes. So I don't think that is working now because, initially we were talking about the 445,000 barrels of crude oil meant for local consumption. But they are doing more than that right now because There's no refinery is working. And the consumption has also gone up locally in the country. So they are doing far more than the 445. So they're even taking the ones for term contracts. So, but the thing is, if that is really working well, you will not have a problem owing the suppliers. So bottom line is that NNPC is owing the suppliers and they are not willing to give the product.
But that appears to be one part of the challenge. Because there's another part where they also talk about lifting this product from the depots at a certain price. And so those who lift it from the depot say, look, if I lift it for what, 150 or more than 148 or more than 168, I definitely have to make my margin.
It's also the pricing. Yeah, you're correct. Okay, now, we have dollarized this whole transaction. The vessels, the daughter vessels that go to the mother vessel, you know, there's a place, the place they call Lagos Road. I don't know that you know that one. That one is the offshore Lagos, it's like offshore Lome, offshore Lagos. All the vessels are there. So the mother vessel is there that brings the products, the refined product. The daughter vessels are going there to take. Yeah. You charter those vessels with dollars.
That's the daughter vessel? The
daughter vessels. They said it used to be about $30,000, you know, for the sport charter, 8 to 10 days. Now it's about $60,000.
I understand they all have to pay in dollars.
They have to pay in dollars. And then MPA takes their docking charges in dollars.
Yeah.
NIMASA takes their fee in dollars.
It shouldn't be.
I actually heard there's a memo from the villa. The late Abba Kyari, Chief of Staff to the President, met with the then Minister of Transportation and his agencies, and they said they should start taking their fees and tariffs in Naira. But it was ignored. So these people are going to the black market. CBN is not giving them dollars. So they are going to the market to buy dollars for these transactions within the country with government agencies. So what we should be asking MPAs, how much of this dollar are they remitting to the federation account? So now you are wondering why there will be scarcity. NNPC, I don't want to use the word broke. They're broke. They're not remitting money to the federation account. They don't have money to pay suppliers. You know, they can't deny this. If they deny this, just ask them. Yeah. They should bring their stock record for November, December 2020, November, December 2021, and this year.
Well, we need to, maybe producers can get the track for us of the NNPC spokesperson saying that we have 2 billion worth of supplies in storage, and that they do not know what this scarcity is caused by. Is it gridlock in Apapa? And, you know, that's what we heard. That was the excuse that they gave to us. What do we make of those kinds of statements?
It's not correct. I'm telling you now, it's shortfall. And again, okay, look at the vessels going to Calabar, Cocoa, Warri. Those ones I heard they used to charter for about $35,000. Now it's about $85,000.
So they have different rates for different regions?
Yes, of course. If you're taking from Lagos, just offshore Lagos, then you go to maybe Jegun or Kirikiri, you know. But now you are going to go across. I remember I chaired a committee once, another committee, when the tank farms in Delta were complaining that the Escravos channel, they need to dredge it. MPA needs to dredge it because they are required to take flat vessels, you know. And I took that up with MPA. So why are you not dredging it? So they are paying more for the vessels that are bringing the products here.
I was going to ask you that question because this issue of dredging has been on for the longest of times. Remember that when the House of Reps, was the same House of Reps that sat over the subsidy brouhaha in 2012. And, you know, part of what we heard was, that's when we heard of mother vessels and daughter vessels for those of us who knew nothing about the sector. And then there were questions as to why should there be mother vessels and why can't the vessels just dock at port? And they said, oh, the place needed to be dredged. And this is 2022. 10 years after, we're still saying the same thing about mother vessels and daughter vessels. Obviously, I mean, when you look at how much money we're talking about here, and when we talk about the fact that these transactions are done in dollars, there are obviously people who are benefiting from the process. And, you know, it will not be certainly in their interest if the rivers were dredged. Is there nothing we can do to force the hand of government to see the benefit in actually doing something about it?
Well, you know, I think 1 Timothy chapter 2, verse 2 talks about you pray for kings, for those in authority.
So that we may live a peaceable and quiet life.
Thank you, Chamberlain. So it's very important. People say, don't over-spiritualize this whole thing. It's very important. We like what the president is doing now with CBN. He's put his foot down. You know, if you ask me, the daily withdrawal is okay. We can manage. We had started that during the days of this former CBN governor. You know, but why did we take our eyes off it? So the point I'm trying to make is we need to pray for the president to be strong. In this industry, you have strong cartels. Why is NNPC broke? Because of the crude oil theft. So, well, we have capacity to do 3 million barrels per day. If you remember, in the past years, we were doing, for our budgeting, we were benchmarking with 2.1, 2.2 million barrels per day. To get to a level where we are struggling to do 1 million barrels per day, something must give. So they do not have the money. So you have to be able to break this cartel.
They've said the oil production has ramped up somewhat, though. There's been some celebration around certain quarters. I think we're doing roughly around 1.5 million barrels per day now.
Yes, okay, you are aware of the Tanita contracts with TP.
Yes.
Yeah, that axis is a bit free now from what we know. You know, the Trans-Forcados pipeline, TFP, the Escravos, the Trans-Ramos. But what about the Trans-Niger pipeline going to Bonny? They are still tapping that on a daily basis, you know? So, but I mean, something has improved a bit. But, you know, NNPC has been owing most of the suppliers for a while. So it's going to take time for us to recover. So the point I'm making, you see, the president will have to take the courage to stop some of these things. He will not hear all, he will hear some, but he needs the courage to stop most of these things.
Essentially what you're saying is that we do not have crude in, beg your pardon, we do not have supply of product in country.
There was a shortfall, but they are ramping up now because some of the suppliers are taking futures. NNPC is promised, you know, it's not all. So I think it's going to come down in a short while because they have been able to work out something with some of the suppliers.
What about the price?
If you notice, you know, they used to go around filling stations and talking about they are selling above. Nobody's saying that right now. So what everybody's concerned about now is just the supplies. And nobody's talking about prices. Chamberlain, you mentioned something about prices in certain areas.
Yes.
You have people like Pinnacle. They have a discharge point that can take vessels over 100 metric tons. The challenge, you also, Mark, you also mentioned something about the dredging. I think the MPA, that's in Lagos now, Apapa, is rated 47,000, can take 47,000 metric ton of vessels. But today, they cannot do even up to 26,000 metric tons. So there's a limit to the size of cargoes that can come in. In 2015, I raised this one with Austin Oniwo, who used to be GMD NNPC. And I said, look, why are these vessels offshore Lagos? Why can't they come into our waters? Why can't they come into MPA? He says, well, that's not his business. He pays whatever tariffs he needs to pay to MPA. So now you have a Minister of Transportation who reports, attended the same FEC meeting with the Minister of Petroleum. They cannot sit down, iron this out. They take all that cost and put it on Nigerians. You know? Wow. So Pinnacle can receive directly in their facility. Same thing with MROS. So if you go and check those ones, they are selling for about 170. And I also heard that NNPC is discharging straight to Moman. So some of these people are selling for 170 when you see queues.
You're just talking about NNPC. Recently, they increased the number of major marketers from 7 to 27. And there have been questions as to what precisely they were trying to achieve with that. That's one. And then you also hear Moman saying they do not recognize the major marketers, which NNPC just recently recognized, or elevated, as the case might be. What's the politics behind that?
I don't know. But it will take time for them to resolve that. Well, you know, they are also they are big players now. You know, like the likes of the Pinnacle coming in. You know, they have that facility, like I said, that can take big vessels. And then they have their tank farm in the Bejuleki and all that. But you don't have roads. So even if you say, okay, don't do offshore Lagos anymore, the vessels should come to Pinnacle and discharge there.
So trucking is also another challenge. But Honorable, have you heard about this thing they call PFI, system money? Some say there's a certain Siaku who collects, but that he heads this collection of this system money, which is now in the region of $300,000, again in dollars. And they say this is part of the challenge because I read about it almost everywhere. There's that complaint. And nobody seems to be doing anything about it because it's impacting heavily on this overall cost of the product.
Which is Siaku? Is it not the MRS guy?
No, they said, well, the one that is in charge of what they call system money. And they say the system money is usually not accounted for. That I heard lots of oil marketers say that is a challenge that needs to be addressed in the sector.
Well, I'm not aware of that.
Nothing about, you ever have the PFI system money that they pay?
I've heard of PFI, but like I said earlier, the president would need the grace. The president we voted for in 2015 is the man they call the man with steel. But he came in, those that brought him in did not allow him to do a whole lot. I mean, you just said something about how can you have a presidential memo saying that agencies under you should not collect dollars anymore, and it's ignored. Where is the steel? You know, so it's a case of people brought you in, they need to make their money back. That's my thinking anyway. You know, so as long as we allow things like this to remain in the system, you weaken the system.
So can the House or National Assembly also pick up on that and say, listen, if that is a recommendation, now we're taking it up as well, lending our voice to say, look, every of that transaction between FG and these other agencies must be in Naira, not in dollars.
Okay, you know the minister was appointed or is usually appointed by the president, so they are all same arm of executive. If your boss issues a memo, I know we will serve as a watchdog or as a check on them. But the point is, if you ignore your boss, it's the boss that we should be querying, not the minister. When I chaired that ad hoc committee, I actually wrote to MPA because I asked the tank farm owners in Delta, what are the issues? And that's when they complained about the Escravos channel and that the fact that they are paying their tariffs to MPA in dollars. And I had the MPA person there attend the meeting, the town hall meeting, the stakeholders meeting we had. And I pointedly asked them, why are you collecting dollars? This boy in Nigeria. They didn't give any meaningful response. And I wrote, say you should stop this.
If they're even collecting the dollars, are they remitting same in dollars?
See, exactly. If they are remitting, what is the base? Okay, they are remitting to the federation account.
Yes.
They are reporting it in Naira, not dollars.
Dollars.
And that will be the official rate.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, the challenge with that too is that what they told us is that when CBN, as you said, don't give them this forex, they go to the black market. So if they get it from black market, they have to make their margin.
Of course.
And they pass it down to us consumers. So it's a cycle that needs to be addressed. But we also will have another perspective from Lagos, and then we'll just go back and forth. Ayo.
Thank you, Chamberlain. Adegboye Gadeniji joins us this morning as well. He is Lagos State Coordinator, Big Tent of the 3rd Force and Southwest Coordinator, Grassroots Mobilization for Labour Party's PCC. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I'm sure you have some reactions. You've been retorting here all the while, you know. But one of the issues that you may want to respond to is what the Honorable Sergio Sogun said about people more concerned about the supply of fuel than the price.
Yes, because the people need it. And it is unfortunate that most of our leaders who are in position of leadership are reactionary elements. They react to problems. Instead of being proactive, imagine, being visionary, and provide in advance for any eventuality, they will now react to challenges. That's exactly why we are here. I don't know why at this time.
When you say reactionary,
yes.
What exactly are you talking about?
Yes, I'm talking to what the damage control they are trying to provide for the scarcity of fuel. In the first place, why should fuel be scarce in Nigeria? Why should we not have functional refineries? In the past 15 years in Nigeria, our refineries have not been working.
Well, that conversation is an endless one. But speaking specifically to this one, I mean, government has come out to say, look, it's not a problem of availability.
Okay.
It's that of supply. That it's the private sector largely, I mean, that's what seems to be the communication, that is responsible for the supply chain, not essentially just government. So government seems to have played its part. It's just now in the hands of fellow Nigerians like you and I in various offices to ensure that these things that you're talking about are addressed.
Everybody, government officials that give the opportunity, they are rent-seeking officials. They take their kickbacks. That is why. Because everybody in the private sector that is in business pays back to the rent-seeking officials in government. And that's the fundamental change.
When you say, when you say rent-seeking, getting kickbacks, what exactly are you talking about?
I am talking about the relationship between the private sector people and the government officials. You can see that they collect in dollars and they pay government in naira. Why should that be? You see, that is the bottleneck they create.
How is that a problem for you?
It's a problem for the generality of Nigerians.
Well, how is it a problem?
Why should we be in Nigeria and be transacting in dollars? If you want to go to America, you go and use dollar to trade there. Why should we be trading in dollars in Nigeria?
But don't forget that, you know, everyone says, I mean, especially those in the sector, say that petroleum products, you know, whichever one of them, they are international products and consequently denominated in dollars and not just in the local currency of any country.
Who imports? It's not NNPC that imports. NNPC imports the fuel and then distributes to this private sector. So the NNPC they sell crude in dollars, isn't it? NNPC sells crude in dollars. So they have to transact in dollars. When it comes to business in Nigeria, it should be in naira. That's more reason why our naira is becoming valueless. Because they have purchased all the dollars in the central bank and nobody can have access to it. So all these people are rent-seeking. And that's the fundamental change we are advocating. And that is, the wave is going around every part of the country now.
So what do you think is missing? I mean, you've talked about the fact that, you know, some people are rent-seeking, government is not proactive, government is reactive. But there are those, I mean, just as Honorable Ogun said the other time, everyone, you also mentioned it before we came on air, everyone has a role to play. So it's not just those who are elected into office that have those roles to play. Also, those people, fellow Nigerians like you and I who work in government offices, need to do their bit. So how should we be speaking to those ones if they do not do what they're supposed to do? What should be done to them?
Thank you. The system has been rotten for years. And that's the reason why we are advocating for system change. There must be a fundamental change in our interpersonal and intergovernmental relationships in this country. It is too obvious that everybody now does not value service to humanity. Everybody values service to self. That is why any government official will be in office and is thinking of how he's going to make his own money. Everybody wants to become a billionaire. Whereas all you need are essentials of life. You know, so if that has been taken away, the propensity to be a commission agent, to seek rent, to take bribe from other users of your service, then social welfare infrastructure, functional ones, are put in place. That everybody, there will be a leveler.
When you say system change, sounds like something everybody would want. But what would be your suggestion about how that system change should happen?
Good. It is very, very simple. We have been advocating. That is exactly what the Big Tent is doing. The Big Ten is a conglomerate of high net worth, patriotic Nigerians, organizations, NGOs, and civil society organizations that have gone through the system and agreed that this system must be changed.
How?
That, yes, through the election of patriotic Nigerians who are ready to serve. Their body language alone will tell you that, yes, this is not somebody who is after nepotism, who is after tribalism, who wants to serve the generality of Nigerians.
We've heard that before. I mean, every Nigerian, you also have heard that. I'm coming somewhere. I'm coming somewhere.
Yeah.
We've heard that before. I mean, we want to change things, want to make a difference and all those things. I mean, Nigerians have heard that countless times down through the generations. Good. The question is, how? When these people get into office, they're not going to do the heavy lifting themselves. They're going to have to route it through people, through the same system.
Good.
That's why I'm asking, how will the system change happen?
The body language of the leadership will tell you that this leadership will not accept corruption or half measure. This leadership is all about productivity. It's all about rent seeking. This leadership is about service to humanity.
So you're saying anyone who doesn't fall in line will be sacked? Is that what you're saying?
He will find his way out. The system will not condone it.
Okay. Well,
yes.
Honorable Ogun, you said something similar the other time that, I mean, there's been a number of challenges concerning people doing things the right way and not doing things the right way. And you've written several times. You mentioned that earlier. If you are to speak to this system change thing, what would be your take if indeed you agree that it's a good idea?
Well, I have always advocated for building strong institutions. Most of the things we are talking about today didn't start today. Like the group CEO of NNPC Limited going to the Niger Delta with the chief of defense staff and discovering those pipes, you know, that we were using to tap from the trunk lines. That didn't start today. That's been there. So I think his efforts should be commended. Even we are talking about scarcity now. There's a whole lot happening there. Atlas Cove, they have the SBM, so you can discharge a whole lot into Atlas Cove and pump, you know, via pipe line to other places. But why have they stopped that? Because they discovered that less than 40% of what is discharged there gets to the destination. That didn't start today. Who are the people tapping, breaking those pipes of finished product? Nigerians. Who are those stealing the ones, the crude oil? Yeah, maybe Nigerians, you know, connive with those that are bringing in vessels. So there's a system collapse. So we need to start talking about this and changing and building strong institutions. It's not so much of what anybody comes to tell us today. You know, those campaigning for the exalted office of the president.
The question,
they can say a whole
Honorable,
lot right now, but the system is in a mess.
Honorable, the question is how? How will that system change happen if over the past 20, 21, 22 years, that system is still the way it is? How will that system change happen?
We have to have somebody. I will listen more to a presidential candidate that is appealing, not the ones making big promises because there's no money. I will listen to one that will say, I will do 1 term maybe, and I will achieve X, Y, Z before I will think about a second term. If I don't achieve it, I won't even bother to come out. Because if you really want to change some of these things, you must come with the mind of doing 1 term. Because they will sell you the story of you have second term to run. And the second term story comes in by your second year in office. The second year in office, they start telling you to prepare for your second term. And you can't rout these people in 2 years. So you have to have a bit of insanity. I think President Obasanjo has mentioned something like that. Be ready to whip everybody into shape first term. So if they gang up and not give you a second term, you would have swept enough of the debt.
Okay.
Have swept enough of the debt from the house.
Okay. Well, you've heard him. You have a response to him.
Yes. Okay. It is very, very clear. He has hit the nail on the head. To achieve the system change, we must be able to get the type of leadership that is not interested in his immediate personal issues, that's ready to serve, a contented personality that has decided to give his all to serve the humanity of Nigerians. And that's exactly what the big tent has been able to bring to the table.
Well, we'll definitely expect a lot more from anyone who would, want to serve Nigerians, because at the end of the day, that is what it's about, service.
Yes,
and,
service.
As the Honorable said, it's not just enough in the big talk, it's the big action that Nigerians are looking for.
That's right.
We certainly will have you here another time to talk more to us about this and a number of other issues. Adeboye Gadeniji is Lagos State Coordinator, Big Tent of the Third Force, and Southwest Coordinator, Grassroots Mobilization, Labour Party Presidential Campaign Council. Thank you once again.
Thank you for having me, Ayo.
Truly appreciate it. Chamberlain, over to you.
So, Honorable, as we wind down now, was there any kind of commitment, or are you looking to get commitment from all of these other agencies, whether it's IPMAN, DAPMAN, NURT, PTW, NUPENG, concerning this 7-day notice that they need to make the product available?
Yeah, I think IPMAN made a commitment that if they are giving the products, they will make sure it goes out there, gets out immediately. And I think they're also talking about having the compliance team that will comprise IPMAN, MOMAN, DAPMAN, NATO, the truck owners, and maybe NNPC, and then maybe the media, and DSS and police. So if you say you have sent 100 trucks to Suleja Depot, you have a situation room. So with the officials there, 100 trucks go to Suleja Depot, where they will let us know the destination of those 100 trucks. From Suleja Depot, you have dispatched these trucks to where? Did they get there? There's a report that most of the filling stations in Borno were bombed by Boko Haram over 10 years ago. But if you go and check, those filling stations are still getting products.
Supplies.
Where do they go to? I think there's one they called, I think Operation White or something. I think I was said that they sent DSS to a certain border. In a few minutes when they got there, 40 trucks crossed the border.
The smuggling this product.
Oh, yes. So the midstream and the Nigerian midstream and midstream and downstream regulatory authority, we need to do more in that direction, because I think what is happening now is there is a marketer that is handling that part of the country, Matrix or so. It's not enough to say a marketer has paid for the product you have given to the product to the marketer, because that product is subsidized. It goes out there across the border, people are making money from it. So for every truck that leaves point A to point B, they should be able to account for them.
So what do you think about what some of them also say, that NNPC being the sole importer seems to be giving them a challenge?
There's a big issue too. But I think we're going to be over that in a short while. We're not going to coming on stream maybe first quarter next year. But again, the minister told me we're just going to be saving 80 naira.
80 naira?
I mean 8 naira. He said 8 naira.
Oh.
That's what we're just going to be saving. But I think we're going to save a little more than that. But I think some of these naira transactions will come down a bit. Then we also have to prevail on NIMASA and MPA to scrap this payment in dollars. If we do that, I think the government agencies are not helping at all. And the government should rein them in, because we are passing these costs to the everyday Nigerian.
Yeah.
And then we are complaining that price of things have gone up. Like the vessels we are talking about going to Warri, Calabar, they're talking about the January, February, diesel was about 180 naira. Now they are using diesel to run their vessels. It's about 800 naira. So of course, something we have to give.
And at some point, they even say that even the mother vessels, they have problems getting mother vessels to even kind of receive the product themselves before the daughter vessels can even access it from the mother vessels. So we have all sorts of challenges in that sector that really needs to be focused on and addressed. But I want to thank you for coming on, Honorable Sergius Ogunwusi, member Committee on Petroleum Downstream.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so you remember the second Niger Bridge is opened now. It was opened by midnight today for motorists who will be accessing the east from the western end of the country. So that part of the road outward west, inward east is open. So remember, the minister did say that, yes, that will happen. Then much later, you'll have the other part from eastern part into the western part of the country will be open for the festivities and for the festive period, after which you'll close again, and then they go back and finish perhaps the furnishing and all the other key components of the road that needs to be sorted. So these are images coming through to you as we speak of what the situation on that road, which is, as you can see there, is tolled. So a welcome development, we might add.
Questions, though. I mean, are they going to start collecting the toll right away? I imagine that during the festive season, since the road is not open for both sides of traffic, perhaps the toll collection might not start immediately. I don't know. I'm just asking the question and trying to answer, but this is certainly a wonderful development. Almost every year, our cameras are usually at the bridgehead in Onitsha, you know, capturing people trying to go back to the east from different parts of the country, especially from the western and the southern part of Nigeria, into the eastern region. And the nightmare we see at Niger Bridge is usually quite worrisome. Every year you see FRSC deploying its personnel you know, to see how they can help relieve the traffic congestion that we usually witness at that bridgehead. But this year, hopefully things will be significantly different with the introduction, with the completion of the second Niger Bridge, which residents, or will I say, you know, people can eventually, citizens can now eventually use to access the eastern part of the country. Chimling, I'm sure that, you know, it would have been wonderful if we could get, you know, one or two people who were already plying the bridge. The bridge was open midnight today from, or was it midnight yesterday? Sometimes midnight is very difficult to describe. 00 hours on the 15th of December. 2022 was when the bridge was officially opened, and I want to believe that, you know, a lot of people will get the news and be able to use this bridge if they're going from any part of the western, if they're going from the western part of the country or the southern part. And by that I mean states like Edo or even Delta. I do not know how the routes from Bayelsa, you know, if they go through Asaba, I do not know. But if you're coming from that area, you have any cause to go through Asaba, I think that this road certainly will be an alternative. I hope that there will be no traffic congestion on this one, because people might say, let us see how the road is, and everybody will abandon the old one. That is also a possibility.
Well,
what
at the moment, these are live images anyways, so that is
fantastic.
What it looks like at the moment. Well, who knows? It all depends. It's only those who are moving from this part to, what do I mean this part? Well, if you're accessing the east now from possibly the Asaba
he thinks it's still in Lagos.
Accessing it from the Asaba end, so you can. But the minister, all of that, they'll be speaking again, I imagine, in days ahead, because they spoke previously about what to expect of this show. Now, we don't know if the touring will start as well as of yet, because it's not been fully opened yet, so there might be no point in doing that. And now that the CBN's come up with this policy, I imagine they like to access the new notes as well. So since that, I know it's not a confusion, but
I guess we got to see.
Okay, so the minister, we understand the minister will be there to open it formally. And so when that happens, then they can ply the road. So we'll keep our ears close to the ground for you, of course, to let you, we'll bring you all of this information as we get them. So those are live images from the second Niger Bridge.
Well, I think
so that is the show today. We'll, of course, expect a lot of messages coming through from you, which we will take at another day. But for now, we have to call it a day. We do thank you all for watching. And remember, drive to stay alive. I'm Chamberlain Osar. Goodbye.
Indeed, if the road to your area is smooth, please really drive to stay alive. Do take it easy on the road and have your neighbor in mind. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Maupelgu Yusuf.
Well, that's the only contribution I was going to make, because the minister also said, on the road, smooth is tempting, yes. But please bear in mind that you can control the car only as much. Please stay safe. We still need you. Nigeria still needs you. Amaya Makinde, have a wonderful rest of your day.